Welcome everybody. As always, please do me a favor and let me know if the audio and visual is all good on your end. I assume it is, so I'm just going to hop right into the charts here. Well, guys, sorry, I've barely been around the PC lately, but I'm back and I'm ready to check out a few charts real quickly. Kind of a last minute stream here, but I want to look at Bitcoin as well as a few other coins of interest lately. So, with that, let's hop right into the Bitcoin chart. You can see on the MDX Algo trend master indicator here, we have just printed a buy signal with very quickly getting another sell signal here. So it's hard to say what the trend is really doing here. Well, actually, since we printed a lower buy and a lower sell, just be a little bit cautious at this point because just on the very short term, this is obviously just a 1 minute chart. Currently trading at about 118.6 thousand US dollars. We may see a little bit of a pullback. But that being said, guys, so far, I mean, even the 4 hour, I've been warning about the, well, not even warning, sorry. I was mentioning in my Telegram channel the last few days, basically, the 4 hour trend was still looking good. And that's still the case at this point, is that basically as long as we were holding above 115.6 thousand here, I was going to remain bullish. And my reasoning for that is basically we haven't lost any structure on the 4 hour chart yet because we had, I mean, just this white line here. This was my most recent high, followed by a little bit of a pullback, right? And then a higher high. So at that point, this was our higher low on the trend. And pulling a fib like that, we never did break that swing fail zone. We never invalidated past the 115 there. So maybe some of you guys in the Telegram were able to catch some nice entries down at that level. But that being said, guys, the fact that we are still holding it is great to see. Obviously, that move may have already played out. We have to be a little bit cautious because technically we have hit that 0.5 STUBER fib already, just below 120K. As the title of the stream says, we did end up hitting 120K again, and that's basically right where that first STUBER target would be at the 0.5 fib for this current range. So if you were laddering in at the 786, 886, the 1, and even if you laddered in properly, you'd be hitting all 4 of those entries, and you would have a nice low entry, or even waiting for that swing fail there or whatever. I personally haven't been trading Bitcoin all that much. I've been very vocal about that for the last, I don't know, the last quite a while, that I have actually been more bullish on altcoins. So especially now that some of my bearish theories have been invalidated, now I'm really just looking for those pullbacks on altcoins and longing them whenever I see an opportunity, STUBER fibs, swing fails, that kind of thing. Also things I've been mentioning in the Telegram channel. Basically that I would just be looking for altcoin long setups moving forward, basically. And some coins of interest for me have been specifically hype as well as Ethereum, more so than Bitcoin lately. So yeah, I did start getting a little bit cautious around that resistance around 110K. I had mentioned that I was flipping some of my Bitcoin, selling some of it for profits, as well as flipping a bunch of it into altcoins, specifically Ethereum and hype and stuff like that. So, I don't feel like I've missed anything on that little pump because Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin anyways. And that's kind of how I'm looking at the last part of this market cycle to go. I don't know how long this phase is going to be. I expect it to run. I mean, I have no reason to be bearish at this point, right? Even if we see some sort of short-term corrections, I really don't see the price just totally dumping off a cliff. I just, the fact that we broke the invalidation, the 115 that we had, setting a higher high and then setting another higher high now, that drastically changed the structure of the chart, right? Because at this point, when we just had our little swing fail above our all-time highs, our higher low on the trend was still way down here at around 74K. Whereas now we've actually created another higher high, right? That's why I have these white lines here. Those are the structure breaks. And the fact that we set another higher high after breaking the all-time high, that's where I become much more bullish because we have much different structure in the chart now because we have confirmed a higher low at around 98.2 thousand here. Yeah, we could have assumed that while we were bouncing here that, hey, this is a higher low, but it wasn't actually confirmed. The point or at the point now that we've broken that structure, it's actually confirmed. So as long as we're staying above that level, really on the weekly, I mean, things look absolutely fantastic to me. And that being said, I'm gonna work my way in a little bit. But on the weekly here, the RSI was another little bit of a concern that you guys know I had. We are flirting with getting above that 70 level. I would really like to see us push above into overbought territory. That would make me feel that there is a lot of strength in the markets. I mean, I already feel like there is, but there is just this nasty bearish divergence that I still want to be a little bit cautious of, if anything. But again, the fact that we have new structure here, I don't have that double top formation with that divergence. So I do feel a lot different about it this time than I did back here when we saw that little 30% correction there. Zooming into the 4 hour, like I said, we're still holding that range. Bringing up the trend master, we're still holding support on the trend master indicator. Basically, I know I was saying at one point that if we invalidated this lower sell signal here, that I thought that was a sign of strength. And that is, that was an early warning sign that we were going to break through resistance. So I wasn't overly bullish on Bitcoin at that point. You guys know I was actually quite bearish, or at least vocally bearish, more so just being a seller at resistance, but very quickly updating my stops on any scalps short. And I even caught some on this little swing fail when we broke just above all-time highs here. I did end up catching a little scalp short. And then I also ended up catching a little bit of a long as well shortly after. So, guys, this trend, I mean, this is just absolutely beautiful. Even if we end up losing this and printing a sell signal, I think it's just going to be a matter of time until we end up printing another, just a higher buy signal on this indicator. And that would just really draw my attention to the fact that there's an obvious uptrend and the indicator is also agreeing with that statement. So it'd just be nice little bit of confluence to have there. I want to check out the ALGO master indicator. So those STUBER fibs, the auto fibs are long. Those are invalidated. That is not even, I mean, we're way out of that range. So again, it's, if you do use the MDX indicators and you're using the auto fibs specifically to use the STUBER fibs, understand that it's still important to understand how the structure works before just relying simply on a single indicator, because at times like this, it's already played out, or it never even did. Actually, we never got that pullback. So that just got invalidated. So not interesting to me. Volume delta, I mean, point of control is significantly lower at this point, down closer to 107K US dollars. Another indicator that provided a little bit of support would be this liquidations band. So that's the 50 to 100x liquidations level, just kind of acts a little bit like a moving average, right? So just an extra confluence showing that we have an uptrend, right? This indicator is curling to the upside and the price is respecting it so far, right? Obviously anything can change at this point, but just calling it for what it is at this point, the bulls have some strong momentum on their side. Actual liquidation levels, I mean, there's liquidity everywhere. Basically, there is a lot below us, but it's also starting to pool up above us already. So we might end up seeing a whole bunch of these gold bars start printing above us. But AI charting tools, what do we have? Well, it's just pointing out the resistance, this order block where we ended up getting rejected here. But even if, like I was saying, even if we see a short-term correction, I mean, just look at the beauty that the bulls have created here with how much support we have below us. So even if we drop down to, let's say, 111.5 thousand US dollars, this is where we have demand zones actually overlapping, right? We have green boxes on top of green boxes. So the indicator is showing that there's just a lot of buying demand around this level here. And that also lines up with this little bit of consolidation we had before pushing through all-time highs. So again, even if we see some sort of a pullback, I'm still mostly interested in looking for bullish STUBERs, bullish support swing fails and that sort of thing, more so than bearish shorting at this point. I do want to just check the chat, make sure you guys can hear me and everything. Nice to see some familiar faces. Welcome back, my friends. Some more familiar than others. BTC daily close is not going to be bullish, but the alts are doing great. What now? Do alts follow BTC if it retraces, or will BTC dominance keep dipping? That's an excellent question. The way I see it is, I feel like if Bitcoin is going to end up correcting and retrace, I feel like the altcoins will most likely follow it. It's just that I think at this point in the market cycle, the rebound is where you're going to notice altcoins performing, right? So they're still going to get wrecked if you're longing at the wrong times, and that volatility, if you're using high leverage, I mean, yeah, you can still get wrecked trying to long this market, right? But yeah, I feel like whenever there is those little pullbacks, as soon as Bitcoin starts finding support, then I'm just going to assume that altcoins are going to find support way more aggressively. Obviously, we're going to have to see how the rest of the market cycle plays out, but that's kind of how I've been playing it recently. More so like, hey, everything's looking like it's starting to bottom. Well, I'm more interested in longing things like Ethereum and hype at this point. Because even if, let's say if, and at this point, the way we have new structure with Bitcoin and everything, even on longer midterm timeframes, I have no reason to think that the top is in at this point. But even if it was, I would still expect altcoins to have some sort of a finale run. And I mean, I've been talking about this Bitcoin dominance line for quite a while. I was warning as we were testing it the third time in the Telegram, actually. I said that if we break this and end up flipping that support into resistance, I mean, that's very good for altcoins. And I mean, what we've seen is Ethereum has just been absolutely mooning lately. Speaking of that, before I get into that, I do want to check the Bitcoin Ethereum or Ethereum Bitcoin chart. I haven't looked at this chart in a while, but I just assume that it looks great. I'm going to zoom right out to the daily. Oh, I have some mapped out lines here. I must have done this in a stream a long time ago, but I mean, those lines very much stood out. Even now, they obviously were important, right? We broke whenever I ended up mapping out this diagonal trend line, it absolutely, when we broke it, that was our bottom. And then when we cleared our horizontal resistance as well, I mean, Ethereum has been outperforming Bitcoin ever since, right? So again, with Bitcoin dominance dropping, with Ethereum versus Bitcoin climbing, Ethereum outperforming Bitcoin finally, I think there's a lot of room for altcoins to run, right? I mean, Ethereum versus Bitcoin has been absolutely hammered into the ground. And you know what, to be fair, it doesn't have to reclaim all of this structure. Who knows what's actually going to happen? All I know is this is insanely bullish market structure. We're just staircasing higher, right? I mean, we set this little high, we got a little bit of a pullback, but fairly significant, well-respected resistance here, got very close here, consolidated even, and then blasting through. So really, as long as this Ethereum BTC chart basically holds the new confirmed higher low, something like that, I mean, it's looking absolutely fantastic for altcoins, in my opinion. Really, we could say even this little block here where we ended up blasting through this resistance here, even if we come back to that, I mean, we can start watching that for support as well. So yeah, I think altcoins are in a great spot. Let me know in the comments how you guys feel. Adrian wants me to be a bear again. It was fun being a bear. I told you eventually he'd have to hibernate a little bit. Being a bear is so much fun. I know not everybody likes to see it, and most people don't like to hear it, but you're right. It is fun. For one, it's just fun being, against the herd as well. There's a special feeling to making money on shorting, right? Anybody can buy and hold something and it goes up over time. But when you're actually planning a trade and making money on the way down while the rest of the market's panicking, that is such a unreal feeling. So, I'll be back. STUBER will be back. Hype, I will absolutely be checking hype shortly. This is bullcrap. Oh, we got the troll back right on. BTC bounce from 112K will be sweet. Yeah, if we go down there, I agree. Hype from 42. I'm all in on it. Oh, nice. Yeah, I've been mostly longing hype lately. Hype, a little bit of Ethereum, a little bit of Bitcoin here and there, but mostly hype and Ethereum. Um, Following three methods on BTC 12-hour candles. I personally don't really look at the 12-hour. I know quite a few people who do. I just haven't really looked at the 12-hour much. I will take a look at a few different time frames. BTC will top with the QQQ and then do a major dump to 75K quickly, and that won't be low enough. The computers are just waiting for OEX to eliminate all shorts first. Next week equal boom, bang, kazowie. I mean, I'm not against the idea of a nice big correction like that. The one thing that would concern me about that, if we drop to 75 at this point, that would invalidate our new bullish structure here. And that could be very bad. It might not be terrible, right? Because I mean, that does happen sometimes, but even back here, you know, when we end up breaking that structure, it becomes a little bit sketchy of what will come at that point, right? So if we end up losing this confirmed higher low, I'm going to have my concerns again. Basically, until that's invalidated, I'll turn into a bear again. If I will be a bear until that gets invalidated, if it happens, right? Because anytime we get structure breaks like that, just like when we got one back here, you know, I was bearish then too. Eventually we went back up. Yeah, sure. But those were both 30% corrections. And I take 30% corrections with leverage very serious. So yeah, basically if we end up losing this level, then we would be going back towards the support that you're talking about with that 75K level. That would be, if I pulled the STUBER, something like that, would end up lining up starting at about 85K down to 80K, and then double bottom and double bottom to swing fail zone would be basically 74 to 67K. So that could be pretty nasty if we end up dropping that. And again, my concern about that is the uptrend has broken if that happens. So that doesn't even mean that we need to find support at this point. If we drop to these levels and set new highs, that could technically be structure for the end forming. Again, it doesn't have to. It could just be a pullback, and once it's invalidated, I would hop on the bull train again. But I would have my concerns if we basically end up dropping 94K is basically the invalidation to the current STUBER we have on the weekly chart, right? The smallest bullish one that I can find on the weekly chart on the very immediate trend here. Invalidation would be below 94K. Yeah, basically what Robin said, right? If we actually retrace the 75K, I don't think we'll have a bull run soon. Yeah, that could be. Well, don't say we wouldn't have a bull run, because we have, right? I mean, Bitcoin has gone from what, 18K or 15K to 120K, 125K, whatever we topped out at. But yeah, I get what you're saying. I would have my concerns with the chart at that point. What were the signs of the ETH pump today? I ended up taking a long that was quite late. I ended up taking one off of a STUBER fib down here. That was basically the 1 minute basically looked the same as the Bitcoin 4 hour to me, right? We came down, never got invalidated, but we were basically testing the lows. So yeah, again, just laddered into a STUBER fib, and my entry ended up just below the 886. Was there a warning sign before that? I mean, oh, I guess I don't know when this would have been, but there would have been plenty of structure breaks along the way, right? Down here, so I did end up taking another long on Ethereum, and I've actually hit 2 of my take profits already. I see I did get an alert just a few minutes ago. Let me just extend this a little bit. But basically, I was looking at, you know, we got a decent little bounce here, bullish in general on the market right now. And I saw this little pullback to the 786, 886. So full disclosure, this is not actually a valid Stuber fib. In fact, this rejection, this would have been a bearish Stuber fib, if anything, right? Because technically, let's look at the price structure here. We had this low, we had a lower low. That means this is our confirmed lower high. So if we pull a fib like that, notice we actually ended up getting a bearish Stuber fib, right? We tested the 786. We ended up getting down to the 0.5 fib. We ended up hitting the 214 fib. So both range targets were hit on that. So even though I'm not looking at playing bearish ones like that, I did see it. I just had no interest in it really. And this one, we didn't actually break this high, right? This is still the confirmed lower high on the trend. Let me just make it red so it's obvious, right? Because same thing, we had our low, lower low. That's our confirmed lower high. We have not broke that range yet, so that range is still very much valid. So we never had a bullish structure, right? We never did end up setting a new higher high, something like that, and then pulling back. That would have actually given me more confidence on the setup, and I would have actually went a little bit heavier on that scalp position. But being that I am bullish, I was willing to just say, you know what, it is still pulling back to that fib pocket, whether or not we have that structure. It's just one less bit of confluence for my setup, kind of a thing. So yeah, I mean, same thing, right? Although it's not actually a valid Stuber setup, I mean, I say quite often in my streams that so often you see the 786, 886 fib pocket act the same, whether the structure's there or not. It's just I do prefer that structure to be there. So it did still end up hitting the first two take profits, though. So I am going to bump my stop loss on that one to break even, just so I don't lose on that. Because guys, I mean, don't get me wrong, I'm very interested in swinging at home run trades, but you're not banking on them, right? I love to leave half my position running in hopes that it turns into a nice home run and it continues running. However, when I'm trading, especially on the 1 minute like this, I mean, that's the beauty of having a trade setup that you like trading, is you have your entries, you have your take profit levels, you have your invalidations, you have all those levels, and you can kind of take the guesswork out of it, right? So being we've hit two of my take profits, well, if I don't want to take those and then I end up losing the trade and then I'm mad at myself, right? So I would rather end up hitting, stick to your plan, right? If that's your trade setup that you're trading, stick to it. And that's basically why I only have half of this position open at this point with a stop loss at break even. I can always get into a new long. I love getting into new positions, new Stubers, always pulling fibs. It's very time consuming, actually. I mean, don't get me wrong, trading the 1 minute is obviously not for everybody, but I treat structure the same, right? Whether it's the 1 minute, the 5 minute, the 1 hour, 4 hour, daily, weekly, I still look at structure the same, right? And just like I was talking about before on the 4 hour, right? I pulled a Stuber fib there. That's no different than how I would have pulled a fib on a 5 minute. The exact same. So if I would long that on a 5 minute chart, then that's reason for me to be bullish at these levels on a 4 hour. Obviously, if you're trading it with leverage, you'd have to either wait to dial in your entry on a shorter time frame or just drop your leverage significantly, right? On the 1 minute, sometimes I'll trade 69x leverage, but on a 4 hour, I would never do that because I would get liquidated very quickly. I'd be looking more at like a 5x. But to each their own, right? 5x is even too high for a lot of people. I get it. Really depends if you have a good grasp on your bankroll management and everything. I mean, I personally don't touch cross leverage, for example, because it just terrifies me that it can go into other things. I always keep things isolated, so I know worst case scenario, I'm going to lose this much, basically. Yeah, Bitcoin dominance still dropping. ETH BTC still looking good. Ethereum still pumping a little bit. I did promise Adrian I will take a look at hype here. I actually entered along on this on a little swing fail as well. But I actually want to talk about this first. This is not where we are anymore, but this is a fib that I wanted to talk about because I actually ended up laying it out in my Telegram last night. Basically, well in advance, saying if hype ends up pulling back, I've currently got a STUBER mapped out like so. Don't really want to see it drop below what was it, 46.9. And then, well, overnight ended up hitting my first 2 take profits. Even though we ended up pulling back, we ended up actually going higher. But again, just an example of, having a plan. Hey, we're pulling back. That's the strategy. There's my fibs. Boom, got in, hit my first 2 take profits, and we see what happens with the rest of the position, right? So obviously not in that position anymore. However, I ended up zooming out, and where did we end up finding local support in this range? Basically I actually have the risk reward mapped out as well. But basically I was looking at a swing fail just because of where we started this. So I'm actually going to remove this just to clean things up a little bit. But our actual downtrend here had ended right about here. And notice we came back and retested that line and then ended up holding it as support basically perfectly, right? Candle bodies ended up holding it, just wicked below very briefly. So I ended up taking a very tight stop loss long position on hype once again. Now, guys, it's very possible I would have got stopped out on this position, right? I mean, I did not leave much wiggle room, but we already got this little swing fail. So I was just kind of thinking to myself, hey, if we already grabbed any little fake out liquidity, don't really need to leave much wiggle room past that. And so even if this trade wouldn't have worked out, if we get back to the top of this range, this is a 10-to-1 risk reward setup. Right. So even at this point, I should probably start paying myself relatively soon here. But just if this is to play out, guys, that's a 10-to-1 risk reward. That's a huge risk reward. Right. So I'll take those setups all day. If we have those swing fail setups like that, I mean, I'm willing to take a few very small losses to catch those nice big positions like that. So that's really the only reason I took that. Just a nice typical swing fail type of setup there on the 5 minutes. So we'll see if it ends up playing out. Absolutely beautiful there. Adrian, you said you're in from 42. I actually, where was 42? Somewhere down here. So probably when you ended up breaking this resistance here, something like that. Yeah, absolutely beautiful run there. Absolutely beautiful. Trend master indicator, again, just printing higher buy signals, right? This is something I always talk about with these trending indicators is, so notice back here, right? We ended up having a lower sell signal, or sorry, a lower buy signal, lower sell signal. But what happens when we end up invalidating that, right? I'm going to make this blue just to point out the resistance of this sell signal where we pivoted there. As soon as we broke that and retested it basically perfectly here, absolutely phenomenal breakout there with the retest and everything. And this is just something I've been playing with the MDX trend master indicator recently. When I notice that buy and sell signals are trending the same direction and then one of the signals gets invalidated, so often we see a breakout followed by a retest. And this is a perfect example of this. And I mean, this is the 4 hour. This is on hype. I mean, this was absolutely massive. This was down at $17, right? But such a beautiful signal. I've been playing that on the 1 minute a little bit recently, just testing it out as well. Very cool breakout strategy there. So excited to keep playing with that. But yeah, hype still just looking absolutely amazing to me. As long as... one thing, not gonna lie, one thing that I don't overly like is that there was very micro structure here, right? We had this high, slightly higher high, and we ended up losing this. So technically we may have lost the micro uptrend there. But that being said, with the trend master indicator being right below us, also holding 4 hour support, with this little cluster of consolidation back here that we are still currently consolidating on top of. Yeah, it's good to acknowledge that, hey, there was this little bit of a sign of weakness, but I really would have a hard time shorting against this market right now, quite honestly. Things just look pretty juicy to the upside lately. Oh boy, let me just get this going here. Hype on the 1 minute, we also recently printed a higher buy signal. I love to see that. And as well, like I was just talking about, this would have been a much lower sell signal, right? We had sell signal, basically double top, lower sell signal, lower sell signal. And we have just now broke that pivotal point of that sell signal. So if this is going to work as a valid breakout, basically I wouldn't want to see us drop below this buy signal here. I wouldn't really want to see hype drop below 46.86 basically. Ideally, it finds support right now and just flips this resistance to support immediately. That would obviously be ideal. But yeah, all things considered, things are looking good still. Ethereum, like I said, Ethereum looking strong. I might actually take another little nibble of profits here. One sec. Yeah, just in case. Leave some running though, because yeah. Another thing with Ethereum, you guys, is maybe some of you guys will remember this. You guys should let me know if you remember when I first started talking about this, because even when I was bullish on Bitcoin, I was starting to open up to the idea of altcoins outperforming it. And I was talking about Ethereum specifically, and how I was saying that, you know, Bitcoin is at macro resistance, but Ethereum isn't even close. And I think Ethereum was down around 2,000 US dollars. And I said that it was just kind of breaking its downtrend. And, you know, if it's going to do basically what Bitcoin has done so far, we would be seeing this purple box up here. And we are getting so close to that. So that played out absolutely beautifully, you guys. Yeah, let me know in the chat if you guys remember me talking about this, because yeah, this has very much so been on my radar for a while. That's actually not even the all-time high STUBER fib, to be fair. We might even go higher. Sorry, one sec. I want to check out an older chart and go way back. Okay, I do have this mapped out. Sorry, no, I don't. One sec. I do have this purple box mapped out, so I must have done this already and mapped it out. Yeah, so the purple box maps out. So we may end up even seeing this one. Obviously, that range that I have pulled on the other chart, this is kind of my main target, just a nice safe target more so. But it's still very possible we go for the full macro fib. It's just that it has been tested a couple times already. And honestly, at that point, the fact that it has been tested a few times, and, you know, we had this, look at this, you guys, as far as bearish structure goes. I mean, hey, we had this high, we had a higher high, we lost the higher low structure. So even though we got a new market cycle here and we started trending to the upside, notice where we ended up finding resistance, right? Several times, right at the 786. We even hit the 0.5 once there, but then even this one, we hit the 786, we hit the 0.5 and the 214 STUBER fib targets. Same with pulled from the opposite direction, you guys. I mean, we ended up pulling back, testing that fib pocket down here absolutely perfectly. And obviously, those of you who are familiar with my streams and the STUBER setups, you know that the 214 fib target is actually, it comes from being the opposite pull of the 786 basically, and that's why they line up so closely like that. But yeah, absolutely beautiful to see that play out. But again, it played out, and after it ended up hitting its target there, it ended up reversing. So now, you know, it's very possible we're going back towards 4K, maybe even higher, because we've tested this resistance a couple times already, right? So again, just at this point, I don't really have a reason to be bearish is all, for once in my life, right? So far, hype is holding this resistance flip. This is the kind of trade, though, you guys, like, obviously I'm already in from the swing fail, but this is the kind of thing that if you end up taking a breakout position like this, just remember to pay yourself along the way, because this is a 1-minute chart, and 1-minute charts can change structure very quickly and things can reverse directions very quickly. But so far that break is looking good. I want to zoom back in on Ethereum, get off those proper time frames, get back on the degenerate stuff. Beauty. I mean, we still are respecting that lower high resistance that I just talked about, but notice that we did test it again. So I'm actually going to extend this, because since we ended up going a little bit higher here, I'm actually going to pull a new fib, something like this, right? Because since we had this high here and we have this higher high here, lowest point between the two is right there. So that's the range that I'm watching right now. That being said, guys, understand, in a situation like this, we basically have two possibilities. We could say that, hey, maybe this is the bottom of the range currently, but also this one is so nearby. So just understand that there's a little bit of wiggle room there, just being that even if we break support, there's more support right below. So I would probably still pull from the bottom like this. Let me just adjust my STUBER fib box, however, because this would once again be valid because we've set a new high here. So the range has changed slightly. So what's Bitcoin doing? Yeah, in the chat, guys, let me know. How are you guys all feeling? Oh, Solana was another one I wanted to talk about. I did enter a long on this too. I just obviously never marked it out. This was another good example of a STUBER fib. I can't remember. Was this on one of my streams here? We were talking about this. Maybe I was chatting with someone else about this, but we were talking about a STUBER fib on Solana, because we had this high, and even though it was just a little wick, it was a swing fail. That's why we got the bearish reaction and back down to the bottom of this range, followed by a bullish one, right? A bullish swing fail of support there. However, the fact that we did set this slightly higher high, we got a valid STUBER fib pull from here. So yeah, would have hit 3 of the entries, wouldn't have caught a 4th one here. And I never actually ended up taking this either. I want to make this clear that I never did catch this position. But this STUBER played out absolutely beautifully and actually set new highs. However, what I did catch was a swing fail of this yellow line. Just like what I was talking about with hype, is there was a bit of a swing fail. So I might have actually hit a target already as well. So this is one of those times where it's a very micro structure, just a tight little range, but we had this high with a slightly higher high. Lowest point between the two is here. That's why I have that yellow line pulled from that level, right here. So if I zoom right in, notice we had the same type of thing. We just ended up breaking below it very briefly and straight back above it. So I ended up taking a long on that as well. Just let me 172.86. So basically right when that green candle closed back above. This is one of those times where I'm going to bump my stop loss up to break even, actually a very small profit, basically to pay my fees on this one and that sort of thing. But yeah, just going to see what happens with this one. Risk-free. Hype, hype is still going, still holding that line, holding the buy signal support so far. That being said, I'm going to bump up my stop loss on this one as well. I don't want to take a loss on this position since we did get that nice little reaction here. Also, if this ends up pulling back down below this double buy signal, at that point, I think it would be a sign of weakness. So I would just want to ditch my position at that point. Especially when I have so many positions open, I really don't want to forget about things and start taking losses when they're sitting in nice profits right now. Sorry, let me just finish bumping up some stop losses here. Nice. Maybe we can even get this microstructure. Again, very micro analyzing, but this would just be another example, right? Technically higher high. So this level should hold if the bulls are going to remain in total control. Let me just catch up on the chat again. Why are my fib levels different from the standard? Because I made my own fib strategy over the last 2 years or so. That's where the old STUBER fibs come from. Have I started selling my spot bag? I was selling a little bit of Bitcoin at about 110. But some of it just went into Ethereum and hype and some random meme coins, some low caps and stuff like that. But yeah, technically started selling a little bit, but that was mostly because I was being cautious while we still had bearish structure. And at this point, I don't really feel that way anymore. What do I think of the Hike and Ashy candles? Do I use it? I personally don't. I think they're good for showing momentum quite well. I just personally don't use them. I just haven't, done back testing with how they would work with my strategies and stuff like that. Oh, Adrian, you meant if we pull back to 42, that's where you would be going all in. I gotcha. Could I look at Peanut? I can look at Peanut. Why not? Any particular time frame? Ooh, it's already pumped pretty good. God, that's just the 1 minute. Let me start zoomed out a little bit. I mean, basically, the way I'm seeing it, it has already broke a fairly nice downtrend here. It's just overall a nice support resistance zone right there. So it's nice that we reclaimed that. Sorry, I haven't looked at this chart maybe ever, except for when it was initially going nuts. But yeah, that does look like it wants to staircase nicely. Even the fact that we had this obvious level of resistance back here, even just going all the way back here, I mean, just an obvious level of, I'm actually going to make a box. From the bottom, this level down to kind of the top of these wicks right here. The fact that we kind of flipped this zone from resistance into support here, I mean, it does look good to me. Even the fact that we're sitting right on top of this range back here, basically, this old resistance flipped into support right here. I love to see that. And the fact that we're basically doing that with this range as well, right? Just flipping that resistance into support. So far, it looks like it's staircasing nicely. If I were a betting man, and I definitely am, I would say I know where we found support too. Would you look at that? Would you just look at it? If we pull a fib from where this trend bottomed, we got that little pump. Look where we ended up pulling back to. That's 786. It's no coincidence. That's a beautiful Fibonacci. And that's exactly why my fibs are on these levels, because it's just, I see this so often. I would have loved to long the hell out of this if I would have looked at this chart before. But yeah, so far so good. I mean, it's obviously hit the first take profit already, the 0.5 fib there, right around 30 cents. So, it has made its move halfway up the range already. I would still expect it to hit the 214, and that would be around 40 cents. So what's that? Another 30% move to the upside with something like that. But realistically, if we are going to get any sort of an altcoin season, some of these ones that had beautiful runners and have survived those nasty sell-offs and stuff like that and have strong communities, I mean, some of these are going to go absolutely ballistic. I don't know if this one will specifically, but it doesn't look so bad to me. Yeah, Litecoin, I can take a quick look. And then I'm probably going to get going here, you guys. Actually, I'll do one more lap around all the coins and see how they're all doing. Let's look at the daily here. So obviously, just going to start zoomed out on the daily, work my way in here. So obviously we broke that resistance. I'm guessing, I don't know. Yeah, it's probably a 786. Yeah, 786, 886. Absolutely beautiful. Once again, it has already hit the 0.5, but I mean, it found support where I would expect support to come in. It doesn't look bad by any means to me at this point. Of course, it's possible we end up running into a little bit of resistance, see some sort of a pullback. Notice where we did wick to there. But again, I wouldn't really want to bet against it at this point. That being said, something to consider, you guys, is Bitcoin dominance. At some point, this is going to see some sort of a bounce, right? This is a 4-hour. If we pull a fib from here, I wouldn't be too surprised if we see Bitcoin dominance have a little bit of a bounce relatively soon. We're going to have to see. Maybe we just absolutely nuke through support like this, but just treating it like any other chart. You know, we're getting close to that STUBER. Some nice structure too, right? Because we had this high back here, ended up breaking it and pulling back down. If this was a 5-minute chart, if this was a Bitcoin 5-minute chart, I would be looking at starting to ladder into some entries. So do with that information what you will. But yeah, anything else? Do I notice anything else? Let's take a look at the 4-hour again. For Litecoin here, sorry, I got a little sidetracked there. Trendmaster, you know what I love to see here? We had those lower sell signals. And again, we ended up breaking that lower sell signal on the 4-hour. And so far we're holding this buy trend, this pink line moving up. That's our buy trend, right? So far that is looking like it's pushing us through that resistance. So Litecoin not looking so bad in my opinion. Much like the rest of the market. So Ethereum, yeah, I'm glad I took a little more profits in the middle of this here. We'll see. Obviously, I hope that it keeps running with the remainder 40% of my position. Hype. It is too bad that we're not just flipping this resistance into support right away. Might end up getting my my TP yet. My forced TP by my stop loss. Might happen. Again, I'm just... we'll see what happens with that. Bitcoin's still looking good. So Bitcoin, same thing, right? Ended up breaking this lower sell signal. So far holding it as support here. So we will see if that ends up flipping resistance into support. Much the same, right? If we end up losing this buy signal, then I would lose total confidence in that type of a setup. That being said, there might be a STUBER if that's more your jam, waiting for a bigger pullback. I mean, there could be a long setup down there, but I'd have my concerns if we end up losing this trend real quick. Litecoin, what is this place? Hey, I personally don't usually look at that one. I was shorting it back not too long. Well, I guess that was several months ago. But yeah, it's not one that I typically look at. But you know what? Where there's volatility, especially right now with how I feel about altcoins, I'll look at anything. As long as there's decent volume, decent liquidity, you're not getting crazy slippage, because that can be a thing too. But yeah, volatility is volatility. I don't care if I like an asset or not. Even XRP, I freaking hate XRP. But that being said, I will trade it. I can set that bias aside and trade whichever. Anyways, guys, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today, you guys. So, yeah, if hopefully you guys found this stream useful. If so, be sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't. And as I mentioned, if you want access to my private Telegram channel where I share some of my theories, my trade setup ideas, just my overall thoughts on the markets, there is a scannable QR code on the screen right now, as well as a link in the description down below. My followers at BloFin, there is still one more day remaining on this deposit bonus that my partners at BloFin are giving my followers. And yeah, they're really good about having promotions basically at all times. When that one ends, I'm sure we'll be getting a new one relatively soon, maybe something with trade volume and deposit or something like that. But they're pretty good about keeping both my new and existing followers who are in my Telegram, you guys. They're constantly giving you guys promotions. So if that is something that interests you and you just want more of my take on the market, more of my how I look at structure, more of how I look at fibs, just strategies in general, if that's something that interests you, scan the QR code on the screen, or follow the link in the description below. See, look at that. We ended up flipping that resistance into support absolutely perfectly. I just want to take one more peek at Ethereum. Hype struggling to gain that momentum, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, guys, thank you so much for being here with me once again. One more time, if you could, please do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, if you appreciate these level-headed videos, trying not to let our emotions get the best of us and just sticking to chart structure for what it is. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.